Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently, I think, about ready to dock up our Solar Gateway module here, aren't we? Let's see here. That's the Solar Gateway there. Solar Gateway Auxiliary Module. There we go. Perfect. So we are going to fly this. And here we are with Jebediah in our Cupola module. And we are pretty much ready to dock up with the Solar Gateway. We're going to go ahead and set this airlock as our target. And then we are going to control from here. Open this airlock. And we are going to set this airlock as our target. Fantastic. And then we're just going to point to the target. Just like so. Actually, we're not quite there yet. We're pretty close, though. Okay, we are about lined up. Not quite there, but there we go. So I'll just freeze those physics. Perfect. We'll swap over here. And we'll point at target, now that Jebediah knows how to do that. Valentina, of course, does not. Okay, we are pretty much aligned to target. We'll freeze the physics again. There we go. And we're just going to burn in at 0.5 meters per second. So this is going to take a little bit of time, of course. I'm just going to adjust our heading. Or rather, our trajectory a little bit there. There we go. And we'll get pointed right back over here, and we're warping in at 4x time acceleration right now, but I would rather, or rather 4x physics warp, but I would rather warp in at time acceleration currently. There we go. And once we are a little ways out, we will stop our time acceleration. Okay, that's about 10 meters out, so we're not very far away. Let's double check our trajectory here. Looks like we should tweak that just a tiny bit, which I just did. And there we go. And we are docked up. Fantastic. So that is our contract complete. And for right now, we're going to call that complete for the Solar Gateway. So this has the ability to run science experiments here at a pretty hefty speed, really. And we are currently researching over here. Let's go ahead and transmit that science. We'll see how much science we have here. In fact, we have 410. We'll go ahead and transmit most of that. And you can see our electric charge is getting drained pretty dramatically here. But that's okay. We should, in theory, be close to okay. We're going to allow partial transmission. Okay. We did not succeed in transmitting that. That's okay. We don't actually need that data. But, so the idea of this Solar Gateway is that this essentially acts like the Minmus Station does, where you can dock up here, refuel. This would need to be refueled from the Minmus Station. It would be the same infrastructure as we used to get these vehicles here, except we would use a kind of fuel ferry to do it, as opposed to one of these modules, and that would probably dock in over here, most likely. And then we can just refuel and do whatever. That is mostly the infrastructure construction that I was interested in doing, though, and we're not really going to utilize it. We have the infrastructure in place, and I'll be honest, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this the way that I have is because I wanted to get some experience in station building, because we're going to need that for the Ethiopia Through the Ages mega campaign. Now, keep in mind that that is going to be using an actual solar system as opposed to the Kerbal system, and that will take some learning curves. There's no doubt about that. That will be modded KSP. But, that is in the future. And that's a problem for future me to deal with. So, I just wanted to get some experience with rendezvousing and docking up. That's not really something that I had done very much before this series, but now I feel like I've got some pretty decent experience for that. Of course, we're going to need a science rover to land on... to land on Minmus, and this is our large scanning arm variant. That's fine. We are not going to be needing this big ol' heat shield. The fairing we actually do need. So we can just ditch the heat shield, and this is of course overkill to get us to Minmus. This is massive, massive overkill. But I'm also lazy, so we're going to leave this as is. It's not like we have any funding issues, and we're going to get paid a pretty hefty amount for science data from surface of Minmus, so that is perfectly fine. So we're going to launch this guy, and this is called the Mark Duna, but we're just going to launch it as is. All we did was take out that heat shield, because what are we going to do with a heat shield on Minmus exactly? We're going to do nothing, is the answer. And yes, this is massive, massive overkill to get this payload to Minmus. I am well aware of this, but let's go anyway. So off we go, and we are going to be landing on Minmus relatively shortly. We do have quite a while before our science rover needs to be moved, of course, so that's just on its way and happening in the background. But all we need to do at this point, really, to wrap up this series is complete these 2 contracts. So that's what we're going to work on, and we're probably going to finish this series next episode, I think. Like I said, we're not really going to utilize the Solar Gateway too much. I just wanted experience in building the infrastructure. That was the primary goal. And realistically, we should be pitching over by now. This is going to make this slightly complicated, because I wasn't exactly paying attention. Yeah, our apoapsis is really very high. We should be pitched all the way over by now. Luckily, we're high enough up that I don't think we're going to have any tilting issues. There we go. We'll just aim at the horizon. We're going to kill our SRBs, or rather our liquid motors, for right now. Burn out the rest of our SRBs at the horizon. About like so. Accelerate our liquid fueled right now and separate, and there we go. Fantastic. And of course we are then just going to circularize up here, standard launch profile, and this technique in the Ethiopia Through the Ages playthrough, which is of course a ways away still, is going to be largely the same, but the numbers are going to be different, and that's going to take some trial and error. I'm not entirely sure exactly how all of this works in non-stock KSP, so that's going to be a bit of a learning curve, kind of like how Rogue Tech was. But for right now, we are going to extend this solar panel now. There we go. As well as this antenna. Not that we really need this antenna extended, but it'll do for now. We have a burn time of 1 minute and 23 seconds, so we need to burn this at T minus, what is that, 41.5 seconds? Yes. Right? Actually, no, it's not 41.5. I'm apparently really struggling with dividing 23 by 2 right now. It's 11.5, so it's 41.5. I was correct the whole time. That'll teach me to not go with my gut. Okay, so we're going to burn this right about now. And off we go into orbit. So, I mean, we'll have a different launch vehicle, and we're going to be using a few different mods for that. I haven't put together the mod list for it yet, because we're still a ways away from that. For the Ethiopia Through the Ages, we need to conquer the world before we can start our space program, in the rules that were set out for that. So that is still going to be a little while. We have not succeeded in conquering the world yet, of course, but that will eventually happen. So the mods that we're going to need for that include a realistic solar system, real parts, essentially making everything a little bit more realistic than stock KSP. That's the idea, anyway. And I don't have any experience in that sort of an environment, so you should expect that there will be more fiery explosions than usual. There are some fiery explosions in stock KSP, of course, but mostly, by and large, things go reasonably well. So we are going to be finishing up this burn in about 10 seconds. Right about now, we are in orbit officially, and there we go. That's pretty circularized. We'll call that good. So we will, of course, set min-miss as our target. And we will need to change our inclination here. So at the ascending node, we are going to need to just burn anti-normal, looks like. Yep, that'll do. We're not going to pay any real attention to this. We're just going to point anti-normal and select this guy. Set this at 0. There we go. And we're just going to point anti-normal and move over to that node. Excellent. We'll warp to that maneuver. And yes, our debris did just crash. That's fine. Saves me from having to untrack it. And in fact, I want to move this node a little further. In fact, we'll just get rid of it. And we'll just warp about here. Excellent. And let's see how this anti-normal burn feels right now. Slightly late is the answer. That's okay. Yeah, we definitely burned a little bit late. But it's kind of irrelevant. 0.1 degrees is probably the best we're going to get. Yes, indeed. If we want to do better, we should point normal. And wait until we get a little closer to the ascending node. Or rather, the descending node. Then we'd warp about here. Maybe a little further. Yeah. And then we'd burn about like that. There we go. That'll do. And min-miss is currently here, so we're going to want to burn here pretty soon. Sometime around here, most likely. Yeah, that's an encounter right there. Is it a good encounter? That's a halfway decent encounter, actually. So we'll just take this... Oh, that was too much. Where are we? This is way more than we need. We need like 800. Of course, it'll need to be a little more than that, but I just want to be able to adjust this. Something kind of like that. Kind of hard to see the prograde marker here, but yeah, this'll do. What is that actual periapsis height? 116 kilometers. That's fine. We'll take it down to about 30. 25 will do. Okay. That node is in T-minus 1 minute and 27 seconds. We'll just get pointed to the node. There we go. And our burn time is 49 seconds, so we're going to need to burn this at T-minus 24.5 seconds. So we will just warp towards that. So right now. And off we go. So we are just in the wrapping up stage at this point of this particular playthrough. Of course, if you particularly like KSP playthroughs, fear not, this is not going to be the final KSP playthrough. I was thinking about Ethiopia Through the Ages maybe being the final KSP 1 playthrough, depending on how KSP 2 plays out, but that, of course, got delayed. So that's going to be a thing, and apparently they're going to be, like, developed in parallel, and there's this whole weird thing. We'll have to see how that all plays out. I'm not sure what's going on with that. It's going to be kind of baffling. So we'll have to navigate that at a time in the future. And we'll just bring this right on down to be about here. How are we looking? We need to be a little more prograde. We need to be slightly less prograde. This is a little too prograde here. So we're going to head over to retrograde. Physics warp does weird things. Uh-huh. Apparently just physics warping is changing our periapsis. We're going to call this good enough. We're not going to do any more physics warping, and instead we are simply going to warp to here. That's 12 days in the future. Excellent. You can see that we've got a pretty healthy ecosystem on Minmus as is. Okay, about 2 days away from entering the Minmus encounter here. Excellent. At the periapsis, we will go ahead and do a retrograde burn and bring this down to somewhere around 30 kilometers, 25 kilometers maybe. Actually, yeah, about 20 kilometers based on sun is that direction. That's fine. Yeah, this would be absolutely fine. So we'll align to that maneuver node. I'm not going to physics warp because I'm concerned about changing our periapsis. And then we're just going to warp to this maneuver. Fantastic. So we're going to burn out this stage. We're going to have plenty of fuel for the landing, though. Like, way more than we need. This is a 10-second burn. We're going to want to burn this at T-minus 5 seconds, of course. So we will just warp towards that. And we're going to burn right now. Okay, there goes this stage. And off it goes. I may have overshot. I did indeed. That's a very low periapsis. We're going to hop over to the apoapsis. And we're just going to fix this a little bit. Honestly, 10 kilometers would be enough. So something like that. And then, yeah, this is actually a decent landing site. That's 40 minutes away, so it's going to rotate some in that time. But we would just want to kill our horizontal speed. Something like this. That'll do. I mean, technically we could land with this intact, but I think that that's kind of a terrible idea. Oh, I forgot about that decoupler, actually. This decoupler should be in this stage. That'll teach me to not check my staging. Okay, so we're going to head to that maneuver node, and we are going to warp to next maneuver. And we should be able to put this thing down and complete this contract, yet this episode, in theory. Okay, and here we are. This is a 16-second burn, so T-minus 8 seconds. What is our current drop point looking like? I'm going to delay this. I want it to be a little bit more over here. Okay. We'll go again. Because I want to actually land in these flats. This will be fine. Okay. At T-minus 8 seconds. Actually, realistically, any time right now. We can just burn this now. Because I don't care where exactly in these flats we land, I just want to land somewhere in the flats. So this is fine. 10 more meters per second here. Okay, yep, that's perfectly fine. We'll position ourselves at surface retrograde. Going into stability assist. Actually, I'm going to freeze physics there for a moment. And we're just going to push this marker over this direction a little. There we go. Fantastic. And down we go. Going to time warp us here until we are... Oh, that's feeling a little fast. Until we're about 3 kilometers up, I think. 5. 4. Okay, we'll be hitting 3 kilometers momentarily. Right about now. This is going to be a little too early. It's not hugely fuel efficient, but it's also safe. It's quite safe. And it's not like we have a shortage of fuel. Like, look at this. We've got so much fuel. 5,000 meters per second right now. This thing is massive overkill for this, but I was feeling lazy and just didn't redesign it. Okay, we can't currently warp. So we're just going to let this fall until we are about 1 kilometer up. I believe we can physics warp, though. Yes, we can. Okay, we are 1 kilometer up right now. And we're just going to start slowly. In fact, you know what? We're going to do that. And we're just going to start slowly decelerating here. Gonna slow down our deceleration slightly. Hey! Seismic sensors! Nice! Technically, that completed our contract. I like it. Okay, we're just going to let this continue to fall for a little bit here. We're only moving at 5 meters per second, so we definitely need to accelerate a bit. This is our shadow here. I'm going to start decelerating us very, very gently here. It feels a little too fast. We're holding at 4.2 meters per second. Okay, I don't hate that. We're decelerating ever so slightly. Okay, let's start decelerating a little bit more. Brakes on. And there we go. Okay. We're going to throttle this up ever so slightly at this point, but I'm going to quick save in case I mess this particular component up. We're going to throttle this up ever so slightly and then decouple it. Just like that. And off goes our sky crane. That's probably going into interstellar space, realistically. Unless it starts tumbling, I suppose, which it kind of looks like it is. More of our debris is crashing in. That's fine by me. Excellent. So we'll grab our temperature scan, atmospheric pressure scan, and seismic scan. We haven't been at greater flaps before, so that's all good. We'll extend our solar panel, and we will extend our antenna. Excellent. And we will not require completion, and we will transmit this data. Excellent. And our next one, there we go, and our final one, fantastic. So there's our data transmitted back, and of course we've got our scanning arm. Oh, and we need to make sure that these are set to SAS only. There we go. Excellent. Brakes off. Technically we're hovering slightly above the surface, physics being physics. But it looks like we can maneuver on the surface just fine. And we are pulling a little bit over to the side while we're under acceleration, but that's perfectly manageable, and I think that's just weight distribution, realistically. Yeah, so this is perfectly fine. We've got our rover on Minmus, and we'll just come to a stop here. Our brakes are rather ineffective right now. Just checking to see if it's SAS holding us like that. Maybe we're not making full contact. Yeah, I think it might have been SAS. Okay, well, that's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and put a cut in here, and next episode, we are going to work on our final contract here. getting our large scanning arm over to Duna. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I will see you all next time when we are going to work on that, but this guy might crash into the surface here. Yes, indeed it will. I think. It might be in orbit. No, it's gonna crash. Kaboom. Fantastic. See you all next time.